Hi, I'm Adam Lane Smith, an attachment specialist, and today I'm going to talk to you about simplifying your life. The truth is that you don't need an easier life. You need a simpler life. Now, most of us think we need an easier life because it feels hard. It feels like our life is just too hard and it needs to get easier. A major part of that is that it's too complicated. Your life is scattered in 5 different directions. You don't know what to do, scattered in 20 different directions sometimes. It feels like you're pulled in every direction. I think about that Lord of the Rings quote. I feel like too little butter scraped over too much bread. All the Lord of the Rings nerds at home are going to tell me how I got it wrong, and that's fine. Um, that that is most of us. Most of us feel like too little butter scraped over too much bread. We feel like we're spread so thin that we have no way to engage or go deep on anything that we need to. Even if we have something we know we want to engage with, we don't even know how. We don't have the time, and we're exhausted, we're tired, and we're frustrated. Your life does not need to be easier. You are strong enough to handle your life. All of us are. All of our ancestors, they came from hunting, fighting off tigers, fighting off rival tribes. We have the DNA genetics. We have our genetics, our biology, our brains are built for extreme adversity and tough conditions. That doesn't mean you should live in them all the time, but you are built to take stress. You are not built for incredible complication. Life was simpler back then. Simpler. What was your goal in life? To survive, to keep your family alive. That was pretty much it. Those two things. Survive, hopefully reproduce, keep your family alive. That's it. Today, what are your goals? You have a lot. You probably have many if you think about them. And if you think you don't, think twice. It might be to finish that book, finish writing that book, finish reading that book, start a YouTube channel, start a family, build a business. It can be any number of things that are dragging you in 50 different directions. And probably you have some that don't make sense. You have paradoxes. You have conflicting desires. You want to stay independent and not have to rely on anybody and not be beholden to anyone, but you also want to be in a loving relationship. That's really difficult to accomplish. In fact, that's impossible. You need to give up one or the other. It might be that your fears are complicating things. It's not that you want complicated things. Your brain is complicating it more than it has to be. And this is often the case when anxiety is high, which typically comes from attachment issues or trauma, or just not learning how to manage life and not learning how to focus into a goal. When I teach people to simplify their lives, it helps. What does that look like? Well, as a marriage and family therapist, I worked with a lot of couples, families, and a lot of independent individuals. Some of my earliest work took place in a big county jail, in one of the worst county jails in the United States. I worked with death penalty inmates. I worked with gang member dropouts. I worked with people who had mutilated children. I worked with some of the most horrific cases you can imagine, and also plenty of people who are in for smaller crimes. I worked with a lot of people who were in jail and headed to prison who had children at home and needed to figure out how to parent from prison. That simplifies your life, but it also complicates it. You think there's a billion complications flying at you, and it feels too complicated, but it's simplified. Let me show you what that looks like, because that sounds like a paradox. All you have to do is focus on parenting your kids, and everything else will take care of itself at that point. You're going in prison. There's nothing you can do about it. Your life is going to be structured. There's nothing you can do about that. You can find your priorities and put all your energy into those things instead. And that is why I would teach parents to parent from prison and how to maintain the best, healthiest relationships with their kids that they could to minimize the damage from being in prison, but not just minimize the damage, to give them the good things those kids needed to build good lives. Not just minimal lives, but good lives. So that when that parent came out of prison, hopefully some of them, those kids would be there and they would have a relationship waiting for them. And they could be a family again instead of being broken and having to try to figure it out from scratch, from zero, from negatives when they got out. You simplify your life by figuring out what your priorities are. What are your real priorities? Attachment can cloud that because it feels like your priority is to just survive every day, minimize your pain, and maximize your pleasure for the rest of your life. That's the emotional brain. That's the right side of your brain. It controls that. And when you're anxious, when your attachment is high, you're at 7 or 8 out of 10 anxiety every day. If you're up there, your brain is only thinking 5 seconds in the future. If you can minimize that anxiety, a lot of physical techniques can do this. There's a tremendous amount of options that aren't just medication. Prolonged physical discomfort through exercise, through martial arts, through progressive muscle relaxation, yoga, all kinds of activities can help. Tai Chi is phenomenal for this also, and it's very simple, and it's useful for people who have bad joints. You can look up Tai Chi videos, take a Tai Chi class. It's really a wonderful martial art designed with elderly people in mind. So give that a shot. If you can diminish that anxiety response, you can start to think about what your actual longer-term priorities are. What is your legacy? What are you wanting to build in your life? For me, I'm a father. So my priority is my children. My priority is building a healthy life for my children, building them an inheritance, building a self-correcting family system so that when problems come up, the family heals instead of just exploding from it. And it's inevitable that we all lose. Building a healthy family system. That is my priority. So how does that influence my other priorities? Well, if my priority is to eat sugary foods every single day, that comes into conflict with my main priority, which is my children. So I need to eat at least relatively healthy, at least most of the time. I need to get physically fit. If I want to leave an inheritance, I need to get financially smart. I need to take some online financial classes. I need to improve my career. I need to build a better financial system for my kids. If I want them to have a healthy marriage someday, or be able to have a healthy marriage if they choose to get married, I need to have a healthy marriage myself. I need to build that in. So I need to put the time and effort into connecting with my wife and making that work and improving problems, healing wounds, making our marriage better, and making all of that as visible as is healthy to our children so that they don't just see a marriage with locked doors. Mom and dad are just talking behind locked doors. We never know how they talk. We show them how our marriage is when we're out there with them. That doesn't mean we fight and scream and throw things at each other. We should never do that, but you shouldn't also do that in front of your children. But if we have a small disagreement, we might handle it right there and show the kids how to model it. We show the kids all kinds of things and model it for them on purpose with both of us knowing what we're doing so nobody flies off the handle in front of the kids. But that's a priority. It simplifies my life to know that my priority is my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, making them healthy. That is my priority. It simplifies everything else because when I'm faced with a decision, I ask, how will this affect my kids? What is the best outcome from this for my kids? What is the best thing I can do to make sure my kids are healthy? And then I do it. And that simplifies the process tremendously because then I don't even have to think hardly at all. I just ask, what's my priority here? Oh, yeah, that. And I go do that. You need to find your one priority in life. If that's your children, if that's a career, if that's an art, if that's something you are building and creating, the word is legacy. What is your legacy going to be? What legacy are you trying to create? Because the harsh reality time, sorry if you don't know this, but you will die someday. What legacy are you wanting to leave? And that legacy happens through relationships. So what relationships are you wanting to leave stronger when you're gone? Who are you wanting to leave stronger? Who are you wanting to leave pieces for? Are you wanting to build the most phenomenal homeless structure that's ever existed to take care of homeless individuals and end homelessness in America? Fantastic. That would be a wonderful legacy. That simplifies all your priorities because they all go toward that. Are you wanting to build the ultimate family and have 500 descendants over the next year and over the next 100 years and have them over the next year? That'd be great. Over the next 100 years, have 500 descendants who are all healthy and loving. Okay, that simplifies the process enormously because that's all you have to do is ask yourself every time a decision comes up, how will this affect my long-term legacy? Legacy is the key to simplifying your life. What legacy are you wanting to leave? If you can figure that out, that will help. That will simplify everything. And if you can't find a legacy, start with principles. What principles are most important to you? And if you don't know what those are, think about the day after your funeral. When you've passed away and people are talking about you, what would it be most shameful for you to know people say you didn't have? Courage, compassion, honesty, loyalty, What 2 or 3 principles would you be ashamed to have people say you don't have? And then live your life every day and make all of your decisions according to those principles so that when you die, they will say you did have those principles. That is what kind of person they were. And those principles will probably lead you to a legacy because you will want to give those principles to other people. You'll want to share those principles with other people. Those principles will inform the work you're going to do in your relationships, personal and professional. That is how you simplify your life, through principles and or legacy. That's where it starts. That's how you simplify it. And that's also how you find a driving life purpose. And stop hating yourself. Because if you don't live to your principles and if you don't have a legacy and you think your life is pointless, it is easy to hate yourself. And that is a big piece of why people drift. Find your principles, find your legacy, and simplify your life.